The story begins with Ayo Hori, a smart girl who completely hates men, convinced that they only want one thing from women. You know what I mean? Her father is Japan's most famous author of adult novels, fuels her disdain. Determined to escape his shadow and live a life free of men, Ayo focuses on pursuing higher education so that she get a top university. Everything changes when she meets Takumi Kijima, a popular boy in her class. He constantly tries to strike up conversations with her, but Ayo always shuts him down. She's certain he's just pretending to be nice, aiming to get what every other man wants. Takumi's friends laugh at his failed attempts. Meanwhile, Ayo leaves the classroom and Takumi wonders if she truly hates him. His classmates reassure him, explaining that Ayo doesn't get along with anyone. When Ayo gets home, her dad is whining about dinner, specifically demanding a melon-shaped pudding. However, his editor Yabi quickly shuts him down. We learn that Ayo's father is a renowned novelist known for his adult-themed stories. Frustrated, Ayo gives him the pudding but ruins the moment by angrily throwing the spoon. The next day during gym class, the teacher sends Ayo to the nurse's office to help Takumi, who has twisted his ankle. Ayo sees this as the perfect chance to tell him how much she dislikes him, hoping he'll leave her alone. When she arrives, she hands him his uniform, which makes him visibly nervous. As she tries to tell him to stay away from her, she becomes flustered. Through the nurse's office window, Ayo spots her father holding up two enormous cheerleading signs. Mortified and furious, she leaps out to tackle him, leaving both of them red-faced. Oblivious to the chaos outside, Takumi asks Ayo to finish what she was saying. Too embarrassed to continue, she stays silent. Seizing the moment, Takumi confesses that he likes her, leaving Ayo completely stunned. Later, on the train ride home, Ayo anxiously mulls over how to respond to his confession. The next morning, still overthinking, she decides to change her appearance, hoping to make herself less appealing to Takumi. Unfortunately, the plan backfires. Her new look is a hit, and everyone, including Takumi, adores it. The students perceive Ayo's outfit as provocative, as it accentuates her figure, leaving her embarrassed and prompting her to flee. Takumi chases after her, apologizes, and offers to treat her to breakfast since she skipped it. As a result, they both end up missing class. In an unexpected twist, Ayo impulsively decides to gauge the size of the stick by reaching out, but before she can follow through, Takumi wakes up and gently holds her hand. Flustered, Ayo inadvertently blurts out her inner thoughts, which Takumi misinterprets as a confession about wanting to be in a relationship. She nervously agrees to consider it. However, on the train ride home, her words replay in her mind, and she fixates on her phone. At home, her father probes into her situation with Takumi, taking it too far by suggesting he could involve her in his novel research. This puts Ayo in a bad mood, which carries over to the next day, causing her classmates to avoid her. Some classmates turn to Takumi, hoping he can resolve the issue. Meanwhile, Ayo debates whether to eavesdrop but ultimately chooses to focus on her studies. To her shock, when she opens her book, she discovers her father has swapped it for a copy of his erotic training manual, leaving her flustered. Just then, Takumi approaches her, and in a panic, she hurls the book at him. Their books get mixed up, resulting in Takumi taking the manual. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Ayo resolves to retrieve the sacred text before he can open it. After school, they meet again, but their conversation is once again riddled with misunderstandings. Fortunately, Ayo manages to reclaim the manual, relieved to find out Takumi hasn't read it. Mortified by her earlier actions, she dashes away. A few days later, Ayo informs her father that she plans to skip the class trip to attend cram school. However, her father insists she go. When the day of the trip arrives, Ayo is a nervous wreck, dreading the possibility of being pressured into something embarrassing by her classmates. Lost in her anxious thoughts, she accidentally bumps into Takumi. Panicking, she quickly steps away, her heart racing from being so close to him. Takumi, finding her shy reaction adorable, compliments how cute she looks. Unfortunately, her classmates overhears and swarms Ayo, bombarding her with questions about her relationship with him. Overwhelmed, Ayo runs away, but she ends up entering the wrong room. Things get even more awkward when Takumi's friends show up, so she'll hide in a closet. Once the others leave, Takumi opens the closet and is shocked to find Ayo crammed inside. Before she can explain, she trips while trying to get out, falling on top of him. Just as they land in this awkward position, his friends return, walking in on the scene. Embarrassed, Ayo tries to explain, but no one believes her. Later that night, during the test of courage, the girls secretly pair Ayo and Takumi to give them some alone time. As they walk through the dark forest, Ayo suddenly needs to use the bathroom. Just as she finds a spot, she feels a tap on her shoulder and, terrified, runs back to Takumi. Concerned, he checks the area but finds nothing alarming. However, he notices Ayo's skirt has been lifted. Trying to discreetly alert her, Takumi ends up confusing Ayo, who assumes he's making inappropriate comments about her. Mortified, she panics and runs. Takumi chases after her and offers his jacket to cover her up. Misunderstanding his gesture, Ayo thinks he's asking her to undress and sprints away in embarrassment. In her haste, she trips and twists her ankle. Takumi helps her up, telling her that she's special to him. For a moment, Ayo thinks their relationship is about to become romantic, and she even thinks about a kiss, but Takumi awkwardly places his jacket around her and finally points out her skirt was lifted. Speechless and humiliated, Ayo stands frozen. In a flashback, Ayo recalls being teased relentlessly for her name, which has an inappropriate meaning. She wakes up from this nightmare, only for her dad to hand her a letter. It turns out to be a photo of Takumi with another girl. Ayo's dad explains that the girl in the photo delivered the letter. At school, Ayo is furious and jealous. She confronts Takumi, who's playing soccer and impressing everyone. The girls around Ayo tease her about having such an athletic boyfriend, but both she and Takumi deny they're dating. Takumi's friend starts teasing him about a recent triple date, which Ayo overhears, making her even angrier. In a fit of jealousy, she tells Takumi never to speak to her again. Later, Ayo tries to clear her mind by eating cake and considers tearing up the photo, but is interrupted by the girl from the photo, Miyabi. Miyabi, an old classmate who used to tease Ayo about her name, explains that she was on the triple date where Takumi confessed he likes Ayo. Now Miyabi is interested in Takumi and asks Ayo if she can have him. Ayo questions whether Miyabi is the type to steal someone's boyfriend, but Miyabi retorts that she dislikes seeing confident girls with good guys. Just then, Takumi calls Ayo to explain he was forced into the date. Still upset, Ayo coldly tells him it doesn't matter since they aren't dating and he can do as he pleases. Takumi agrees to stop talking to her and hangs up. Ayo briefly considers calling back to apologize but doesn't. The next day, Takumi begins ignoring Ayo and she notices Miyabi getting closer to them. At home, Ayo asks her dad when guys lose interest in girls. He tells her it happens when girls start doubting their own feelings. Time passes and Ayo and her dad go to a fair, where they run into Takumi and Miyabi on a date. They visit the same attractions, with Miyabi following a manual written by Ayo's dad. It's revealed that the photo of Takumi and Miyabi was actually photoshopped. In a haunted house game, Ayo and Takumi unknowingly interact, only to realize each other's identities partway through. They awkwardly part ways. Later, Miyabi confesses her feelings to Takumi. Ayo, seeing them together in front of a hotel, jumps to conclusions and grows even more upset when they enter the building. Later, while taking a bath, Ayo faints from the heat. Just then, Takumi appears out of nowhere. Ayo wakes up and she's shocked to see him. Her father enters the room and explains that Takumi came to check on her after hearing she wasn't feeling well. To make things worse, her father mentions that Takumi carried her to her room like a romantic couple. Still angry and suspicious, Ayo lashes out at Takumi, accusing him of being a two-timer and telling him to return to the hotel with Miyabi, but explains that they were denied entry because they're students. Outside, he casually mentioned Ayo, which upset Miyabi, and she runs off. Ayo, still doubtful, continues accusing him, leaving Takumi flustered. Later, during their English study session at a cafe, Takumi tries to impress Ayo by reading from his book. However, he unknowingly says something inappropriate, making Ayo flustered. Takumi continues reading, but Ayo realizes that the book he's reading is one of her father's inappropriate book. On their way home, the conversation takes an awkward turn as Takumi casually brings up adult topics. Flustered but determined to seem knowledgeable, Ayo starts bragging, but when Takumi says she must already know everything about relationships, Ayo panics and speaks the truth. She's just as inexperienced and runs away in embarrassment. Later, Miyabi sits quietly at the same cafe. Suddenly, Ayo storms in. She tearfully hugs her, admitting she's terrified of boys like Takumi. Miyabi, stunned by Ayo's vulnerability, is left speechless. The next morning, Ayo feels humiliated knowing Takumi has discovered her inexperience. Meanwhile, her father is meditating, claiming it helps him find inspiration for his novels. Yubi arrives, exhausted, and invites them to a nearby meat festival. At the festival, Ayo is surprised to find Miyabi working at a stall. Miyabi wastes no time teasing her, saying she doesn't belong in such a lively place. Before Ayo can respond, Takumi appears, revealing he's also working with Miyabi. Ayo's jealousy spikes when she hears Takumi casually calling Miyabi by her first name while addressing her formally. Yubi arrives, greets Ayo warmly, calling her by her first name and introducing himself. This makes Takumi's jealous and he warns Yubi to keep his distance. They argue, but before tensions escalate, Miyabi drags Takumi back to work. Back at work, Takumi struggles to focus, distracted by thoughts of Ayo and Yabi. Meanwhile, Ayo, preoccupied with thoughts of Takumi and Miyabi as a couple, loses track of Yabi in the crowded festival, and she realizes she's alone. But just then, she bumps into Takumi, who's on a break. Without hesitation, Takumi confronts her, demanding to know how close she and Yabi really are. But before Ayo can respond, Yabi arrives telling her it's time to head home. But Takumi grabs Ayo's arm and for the first time calls her by her first name, so Ayo gets embarrassed. Takumi lifts her onto his shoulders and runs away with her, leaving Yabi behind. Later, in a park, Takumi confesses he'll do whatever it takes to make her fall in love with him, and Ayo is left speechless. The next day, Ayo faints after seeing her grades have dropped. When summer arrives, she heads to a quiet hotel to focus on her studies. Arriving early, she starts studying elsewhere and soon spots Takumi. She's momentarily captivated by his physique. Takumi invites her out, but she declines, determined to avoid distractions. Later, Miyabi encourages Ayo to relax and suggests they buy swimsuits. Ayo tries on a swimsuit and nervously shows it to Takumi, who is left speechless. At the beach, Ayo asks Takumi why he calls Miyabi by her first name. He explains it's to avoid confusion with someone else. When Ayo asks how she looks in her swimsuit, Takumi nervously admits it looks stunning, making them both blush. Embarrassed but pleased, Ayo tries to leave, but Takumi stops her, apologizing and telling her she looks beautiful. Misinterpreting his words, Ayo assumes he's hinting at something romantic, but Takumi simply suggests they enjoy the beach and make good memories before she resumes studying. Frustrated, Ayo ends up losing her hotel reservation and doesn't study that night, growing annoyed at how oblivious Takumi is to her hints. Back home, Ayo wonders why Takumi hasn't taken advantage of their alone time. Thinking if their roles were reversed, she wouldn't hesitate. Just then, Takumi texts her, inviting her to his soccer game. Determined to awaken his romantic side, Ayo devises a plan. She replies, agreeing to come and offering to bring food, which delights Takumi. The next day, Ayo prepares an elaborate lunch, adding a secret ingredient her father casually suggests. At the game, Takumi is disappointed after his team loses. The girls encourage Ayo to cheer him up before leaving for karaoke. Ayo offers Takumi the food she prepared, and he eagerly digs in. However, shortly after, Takumi begins to feel unwell, and to Ayo's shock, pulls her into a heated embrace. Just as things start to escalate, Takumi stops, apologizing and telling her to leave since he isn't feeling right. Frustrated, Ayo yells at him for not making a move, but Takumi calmly explains that he wants their relationship to be built on love. Hearing this, Ayo feels a mix of happiness and regret. She stands up and tells Takumi not to ask her out again, insisting she has more important priorities. She storms off, heartbroken, but convinces herself it's for the best so she can focus on her studies and independence. Meanwhile, Takumi silently resolves to work hard to get into the same university as Ayo. Back at school, Ayo notices Takumi has completely stopped talking to her just as she had asked. However, she's surprised by how much it hurts. One day, one of Takumi's friends approaches her, asking if something's wrong since Takumi has been in a terrible mood. Before she can respond, Takumi calls his friend over and warns him to leave Ayo alone, leaving her feeling even more rejected. She decides to bury her feelings and focus on her exams. At home, Ayo tries to study with Yabi, but her thoughts keep drifting back to Takumi. Yabi, noticing her distraction, playfully makes her wear a maid outfit to help her concentrate. Despite the antics, Ayo can't shake her thoughts of Takumi. Later, Takumi unexpectedly shows up at Ayo's house. Yabi intercepts him, warning him not to disturb Ayo's studies. Takumi admits he knows he's being a bother but insists he needs to see her. If she rejects him, he promises to leave her alone for good. Seeing his determination, Yabi allows him in. Takumi finds Ayo in her room. Looking dejected, he tells her he'll respect her wishes and leave her life for good, but as he turns to go, Ayo stops him. With tears in her eyes, she asks him to stay. Overjoyed, Takumi embraces her. Their emotional moment is interrupted when Ayo's father barges in, casually recording the scene. Takumi apologizes, but Ayo's father reassures him, saying he understands young love. As Takumi prepares to leave, he tells Ayo he'll wait until they both get into university before taking their relationship further. Ayo, determined to succeed, sets her sights on passing her exams and building a future alongside Takumi. The sports festival preparations are in full swing, and the students of Class 1 are asked to choose their events. While some students opt for the easier options, Ayo feels unsure, knowing she's not good at sports. She overhears Takumi's friends teasing him about being chosen as a male cheerleader. They also joke that Ayo might perform better if he cheers for her, which sparks a realization in Ayo. She's determined not to miss the festival, even if it means risking injury. Later that night, Ayo surprises her father by asking to use the treadmill. Her father, shocked that someone who can't run to save her life wants to train, offers to cheer for her alongside Takumi. However, Ayo immediately rejects his suggestions, firmly stating she doesn't want him there. Frustrated, her father declares she won't leave the house. In retaliation, Ayo complains to Yabi, igniting a full-blown father-daughter feud. From that point on, the two avoid speaking, each doing their own thing in silence. On the day of the sports festival, the atmosphere is electric as the students prepare for their events. Despite her earlier outburst, Ayo scans the crowd, hoping to spot her father. Lost in thought, she doesn't notice Takumi approaching. She confides in him about the fight with her father, and Takumi offers her some thoughtful advice before heading off to prepare for his cheerleading duties. As Ayo turns to leave, she accidentally steps on her father, who reveals he only wanted to support her. The festival kicks off with the 800-meter race. Ayo takes her position while her father and Takumi cheer her on from the sidelines, channeling the energy of a basketball cheerleading squad. Midway through the race, Ayo begins to lose her lead. In a desperate bid to motivate her, her father shouts wildly inappropriate comments about her physique. Mortified, Ayo sprints faster, determined to silence him, and manages to win the race. After crossing the finish line, her father pays for his antics. He's later seen wrapped head to toe in bandages, resembling an Egyptian mummy, courtesy of Ayo's well-earned punishment. Just as the scene settles, Takumi approaches, and Ayo's father seizes the moment to ask if Takumi enjoyed his comments about Ayo's body. To Ayo's surprise, Takumi admits he did, leaving her in tears of embarrassment. Sometime later, Ayo, overthinking as usual, tells Takumi they should stop studying together, claiming they get too distracted, but in reality she is distracted by inappropriate thought. Takumi, sensing her hesitation, asks if she's worried about being alone with him, which Ayo quickly denies while trying to act cool. Takumi then casually invites her to study at his place over the weekend, mentioning that no one else will be home. This sends Ayo's mind into overdrive, but she nervously agrees. That night, filled with excitement and nerves, Ayo orders some silk underwear, just in case. When the package arrives the next day, her father instantly assumes she bought something racy for Takumi. Flustered, Ayo denies it, though her father happens to be right for once. Finally, the weekend arrives and Ayo heads to Takumi's house. They dive into their studies, but as hours pass with Takumi not making a move, Ayo grows antsy. Desperate, she starts dropping hints, but Takumi remains clueless. Switching tactics, she makes her hints painfully obvious, but Takumi is so innocent that doesn't catch on. Out of the blue, Takumi innocently suggests that if they both pass their exams, they can ask each other for one favor. Ayo starts to think inappropriate things again, but Takumi says he'd simply ask for another homemade lunch, leaving Ayo dumbfounded. Realizing she'll have to work harder to get her romantic moment, Ayo becomes fiercely determined to pass the exams. However, her intense focus backfires when she falls ill from overstudying. As a result, Ayo misses the exams entirely, losing her chance to ask Takumi for anything. Ayo visits an ice cream shop and runs into Miyabi, who works there. Miyabi asks if Ayo has made any moves with Takumi, and Ayo admits she hasn't. Miyabi advises her to at least kiss him, saying it's the first step in a relationship. Taking this advice to heart, Ayo leaves the shop determined to change. On her way home, she resolves to adopt Takumi's patient approach, focusing on her studies and waiting until university for anything more serious. The next day, Ayo dives into her studies with renewed focus. Takumi notices her change and asks if something is bothering her. Ayo initially denies it but eventually confesses that they haven't kissed yet, making her question their relationship. Takumi asks if she wants to try kissing, and Ayo shyly agrees. Just as they lean in, Takumi hesitates and suggests they wait. However, Ayo takes the initiative and kisses him, feeling a wave of relief and happiness. They share several more kisses that evening. Later, Ayo reflects on their kisses, only to have her father somehow find out. The next day, Takumi approaches a blushing Ayo, who begins overthinking how he's such a good kisser. She suspects he's kissed other girls, which fuels her jealousy. In a fit of envy, she storms off. It's later revealed that Takumi's kissing skills come from practicing on his pillow, and that their kiss was his first real one. They meet again at the library and decide to talk privately. Ayo admits it was her first kiss, and Takumi confesses it was his too. They clear up the misunderstanding, and Takumi cheekily steals another kiss. And that's how the season ends. Let me know what you think about this anime, and as always leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video.